to say hello to somebody we have heard a lot about, but have not had a chance to meet. He is an author, former football player. This is an article by Eric Spanberg from Sports Business Journal. He's also won the Edgar Award, which is very prestigious in the avenue of novel writing. He teaches, and he is our next guest, Eli Cranor. It's great to say hello to you. The book Mississippi Blue 42 is getting rave reviews from many, many different people. I know you've been on tour, so thanks for hopping on board here.
Thanks so much for having me, Paul. I'm very excited.
Well, we're glad to have you. I want to go back a little bit because there was a time when I'm not sure how to quite to aptly describe your college career, but you were a quarterback for Howard Schnellenberger, which is a magical name. I keep looking for your induction into the College Football Hall of Fame, and I'm probably going to have to wait. Tell us first of all about your early days as a high school and college football player.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I started playing tackle football when I was 9, and went on and played in high school. Played one season for Coach Schnellenberger at Florida Atlantic, and then went on to Ouachita Baptist, a Division II school, and then played a season overseas in Sweden. And if you can believe it or not, I had hair, Paul, that was down past my shoulders at the time when I came back from Sweden.
Listen, I thought I knew everything, but I've never heard of anybody. I didn't know they had football in Sweden, let alone playing there. What is? It seems like it might be cold.
It was the best. So I was dead set. I was an English literature major, which was strange because at that small Division II school, my senior year we had like 6 English lit majors, and I was the only dude, and I also happened to be the quarterback. So I was always this strange kind of thing. And then I was dead set to go study creative writing. Wanted to go to Ole Miss, and I get a Facebook message from this team called the Karlstad Crusaders in Karlstad, Sweden. And I went to my English professor, and I was like, should I go to this great guy who's just my heart friend? I was like, should I go study creative writing or should I go play football in Sweden? And he was like, you got to go play football in Sweden.
So this all, so you obviously get through with your playing career and decide that maybe it's time to do what you're trained to do and write. You had. I mean, it's hard getting started in this field. You know that better than anyone. You finally hit pay dirt. You have some successful novels, and you decide to bring it close to our neck of the woods. So take us through first of all, the idea of the novel, the locale of the novel, and obviously seeing it through.
Totally. Well, and even before that, I coached high school football for 5 years, and I got to be the head football coach when I was about 26, and was totally unprepared for that job, and quickly learned it's like being the sheriff, the mayor, and a youth pastor, kind of all wrapped into this one job. And in my 2 seasons, we went 1-19.
Ooh.
And I love to always say that if that hadn't happened, if we'd even gone 500, I might have never gone back to writing books. I might still be coaching. So I really owe that. But what happened was, like I said, I've been playing ball since I was 9 and then coaching it. So it was like 20 straight seasons. And I didn't know what to do. And so I went into my basement. We had kids. I have 2 kids, and get up at 5, and I'd write for about 2 hours. And it took 7 years to get that first book out. Came out in 2022. And now, Mississippi Blue 42 is the 4th one. The seed of the idea came from Stephen Godfrey's 2014 article, Meet the Bagman. When I read that, oh man, I just thought, for a guy who's writing crime novels, mystery novels, thrillers, whatever you want to call them, I don't even really know what to call this book that's there on the screen, but it really started with that. And then the second part was when the FBI investigated college basketball in 2017, and just kind of how wild that case was and how all over the place, the FBI agents are gambling, and it was great, because that's what I really hope people, if you find this book, is, it's meant to be funny. It's meant to be a lot of fun. We're talking about a game. So all that pageantry and pride and all that stuff that goes into this, it was a lot of fun to write.
Now, listen, Mississippi is a great place to set a book. I think there's a few famous authors of yesteryear that I'm sure you studied that put their feet down there, and most recently, between Grisham, Greg Iles, who tragically just passed away, somebody that sat
Rest in
right here
peace.
with us and we loved on this show, is another one. But tell us about the setting, the University of Central Mississippi. I looked for them on the SEC schedule this Saturday. I didn't see them.
Totally. Well, so I was born just west of Memphis. I was born in a town called Forest City, Arkansas. And all three of my first books are set more in the Ozarks kind of region, which is where I grew up. But all my family's from the Delta. And so for this book, I don't know, there's more there geographically and culturally, that part of Arkansas has more in common with Memphis and Mississippi than it does where I grew up, in the Ozarks. And so it felt like a fun place to write about. It really felt like there's just so much culture down every blue highway, in every honky tonk, not to mention the football stuff. And so I just thought it was a ripe and fertile soil to try and set a book.
So, can you? Every author has his own ideas, but why not? Which is there a school, or is this a composite? Is it a specific school? There are a couple of pretty well-known schools in Mississippi.
Well, that's a great question, Paul. And I was actually, when I was on book tour, I was sitting with John T. Edge in Oxford, Mississippi. And
Right,
John T.,
John.
we were at Square Books, which, made famous by John Grisham.
Absolutely.
And he's moderating this talk for me at this bookstore in the shadow of Ole Miss. And the first question John T. asks me is, why is this Mississippi? Is this Ole Miss? And no, I think that was the most fun I had with the whole book. I didn't have anything to do with that color scheme. And I can't help that my name's Eli, but it does scream a lot of Ole Miss on there. But man, what I did was I pulled the, you just can't make this stuff up sort of headlines that are college football over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And all of those pieces are woven into here. If you're a college football fan, I think one of the most fun things that you'll have with this book is looking through there, reading through there, and pointing at it and kind of giggling and saying, "Oh my gosh!" Like I remember exactly when that happened. But there's always that's the most fun part about writing a novel is there's a disclaimer at the beginning that all of this is fiction. It's all names, places. They're all used fictitiously. So
now that you've done it, it's one, and you mentioned Square Books, and I mean there isn't a young writer who hasn't gone up to the second floor and looked out where Grisham sat there with his legal pad and scripted out A Time to Kill. I mean, it's the holy ground of literature. But as you're now doing it, and you're running into, whether it's in Oxford or anywhere for that matter, what type of questions do you get from folks who say hello and say, well, yeah, I've read this one, I've read that one. What did you learn from that book tour that maybe you can help us with?
Oh yeah, in regard to Mississippi Blue 42, it is a departure in tone from my first three books. My first three books were very much like, if you've seen Winter's Bone or read the novel Dandy Woodrell's Winter's Bone, very serious. And man, that has been one thing that people are telling me, about this book is like it's actually funny. And actually, I did not win that crowd over in Oxford, Mississippi until John T. very graciously said, "Well, Eli, why don't you do a reading?" And he hadn't told me this part either. He said, here, and he had it picked out, and he had the chapter and the scene picked out, and I ended up reading it out loud to them, and it was the first time in my career where people were actually laughing out in the crowd. And I think once those good Mississippians heard kind of the tone of the book, then they understood, like, okay, we see where this Arkansas boy's coming from.
Hey, this is just pure selfish question here because I once wrote for a living, and you can tell I'm no longer doing that. But how do you write funny? Because you can take a sentence or a punchline to 10 different people and get all kinds of different reactions.
Absolutely. And you read any Carl Hyacin, Paul?
Yes, yes, I have.
I love Carl Hyacin, and I always say, and I love Elmore Leonard, and I always say this book, in a lot of ways, was a love letter in style and tone and scheme to those two writers. And what Carl does so well, it's satire. And so in a lot of ways, I think that's what Mississippi Blue 42 is. I'm satirizing college football. And so in order for those jokes to land, it helps that I understand a little bit about what does that world look like. And when it gets funny is when you do something that seems so extreme. A fan is dressed up in a mascot suit and maybe abducts a quarterback before a game, and you think that would never happen. Like, that's crazy. That's only, and then you're like, wait, like we could read that headline tomorrow. And I think that's where a lot of those jokes are landing.
The book's gotten great response, great reviews. Is this something that you'll tackle again, or are you going to go back to what got you here?
No, it's under a 2-book deal, and the
Okay.
idea was always so this book is set prior to the NIL. It's set in the 2013-2014 season, right around the time that Bagman article was coming out. And the idea was always to kind of go back and zoom in on the inflection point. Zoom in on what were all the things. I mean, everything from the EA Sports, the Ed O'Banion case, like all those. This book kind of serves as an alternate history. And then the next book, right now, which I'm currently working my way through a round of revisions, is set right in this Wild West era, which is so challenging because it changes minute by minute, as you well know, and day by day. And the publishing industry is a glacial beast. So I'm setting it in 2023. So when you think back to that year, there were some really good headlines and some stuff that make for some really, really good fodder for my writerly fire.
Name of the book is Mississippi Blue 42 by Eli Cranor. Eli, when I get the advance of this next book, I don't want to see some bespeckled, balding, aging talk show host taken hostage. I will not like that. But anyway, it's a great idea, Bo.
By a man in a Buckeye mascot.
Exactly. Well, all the best. It's been an absolute delight getting to know you. And the name of the book again, Mississippi Blue 42. There's going to be another one, so you might as well read it while you can still say you were in early on Eli's career. Thank you very, very much, Eli Cranor, joining us as we head to the break. Fantastic meeting you.
Thanks so much, Paul.
We'll take a short break here. More to come right after this.